Are you able to pick up a newspaper these days without reading something about the immune system? You're reading about Ebola, you're reading about West Nile, you're reading about the avian flu, you're reading about all these wonderful bugs that are making themselves into our population. You're reading about superbugs, these bacteria that we can't seem to handle with any of our usual antibiotics. Can't get away from articles on the immune system. It's a very, very hot topic. So let me give you a little course on immunology. Immunology 101 in 90 seconds. Your immune system is set up to protect your body from anything that's not supposed to be in your body, what we call a foreign antigen. And a foreign antigen could be a bacteria, it could be a virus, it could be a fungus, it could be many different things that aren't supposed to be in your body. Your immune system is set up to prevent that from happening. We have different parts of our immune system at play. I mean, something as simple as your skin is actually part of your immune system because it stops things from getting into your body. Now let me look at something a little bit more specific. David, who you saw on stage before, is an extremely likable individual. And at the end of the night, he's going to be shaking everybody's hands good night, and he's going to be kissing some of the women good night. And somebody is going to shake David's hand and leave a nice glob of viral secretions on his finger. And then the next person is going to ask David a tricky question, and David's going to go like this. Scratch his eye, and all of a sudden a viral particle has a chance to get into David's bloodstream. And almost immediately, the frontline soldiers of the immune system, something called a white blood cell. You've all heard of your white blood cells. White blood cell will recognize that this is a foreign antigen, not supposed to be there, and attack this viral particle. And most of the time, it'll actually physically try to gobble it up like a Pac-Man. Now, viral particle, please. In 15 or 20 minutes, David's body could be overwhelmed with hundreds and thousands of millions of viral particles. And we only have so many white blood cells. So the way that David fights off his infection is that the white blood cells themselves will clone over and over and over again, make copies of themselves, so in essence, overwhelming the enemy. So if you go to the emergency department and a doctor wants to know if you're fighting off an infection, he or she will draw a test called a white blood cell test. And if your white blood cells are high, it means that you're fighting off a threat. Here's the key point. As Dr. Bunos has written so eloquently, the limiting factor to both the function and the multiplication of these white blood cells are their availability of glutathione. If you start running low on glutathione, your ability to fight off an infection becomes blunted. And there are so many examples of this in the medical research. And when you look at glutathione and the way people write about glutathione, they describe glutathione literally as fuel or food for these critical white blood cells, fuel for the immune system. So that's A, glutathione, your master antioxidant. I, glutathione, fuel for your immune system. And finally, D, detoxification. Everybody's talking about detoxification these days. People come up to me and say, Dr. Gutman, look at this substance. It's going to cleanse your liver. It's going to cleanse your blood. What is this cleansing business anyways? I have this picture of molecules going up against my liver with scrub brushes. I need to know on a biochemical and physiological basis what this cleansing means. And as an emergency doctor, the word glutathione lit a little light up over my head. Anybody here work in an emergency department? Okay, there's a good number of you. You know that one of the things that we have to take care of in an emergency department, one of the nastier things we need to do is take care of people that come in with an intentional overdose. These people are not happy, they're usually depressed, it's a messy job. In Europe, the most common overdose, intentional overdose that's seen is an overdose with something called acetaminophen. Y'all know what acetaminophen is? Tylenol, Adderall. Taking an acetaminophen overdose to kill yourself is a very ugly affair. What happens essentially over 2 to 5 days is your liver falls apart. Here in North America, taking an acetaminophen overdose isn't that common. I think North Americans are more into instant gratification. But nevertheless, we do see a lot of acetaminophen overdoses. Another interesting point about North American overdoses is that over 50% of them are done in conjunction with another drug called alcohol. Let me paint you a picture. You've just gotten into a big fight with your spouse or your boyfriend and your girlfriend. And you're in the kitchen and you're marching around and you can't believe what they said to you. And on the kitchen table is a big old bottle of extra strength acetaminophen. The problem is that right next to it is an even bigger bottle of Johnny Walker, preferably blue. And you're really mad and you open up the scotch and you take a shot of it thinking that it's going to make you feel better. It doesn't make you feel better. In fact, it makes you feel angrier. And you keep on marching around and you keep on taking shots of that scotch. And after a while, your self-preservation instincts fly out the window and that bottle of pills starts looking more and more attractive to you. And at some point, you snap the top off, you down all the pills, you either pass out on the floor or crawl into bed, waking up the next day with a bloody headache, despite all the Tylenol, but sober enough to realize, oh my God, what have I done? So you wander off to the local emergency department and you're met by the triage nurse and she says, well, what brings you in here today? And you say, well, I've just taken an acetaminophen overdose. And the nurse says, what do you mean you've just taken an acetaminophen overdose? When did you take it? Well, I took it last night. And she says, good, come on in. So she leads you into a cubicle where you're further humiliated by having to strip naked and put on one of those loose smocks with your butt hanging out. And another nurse comes into the cubicle and she takes some more vital signs and draws some bloods and is taking some more historical features and says, acetaminophen overdose. When did you take it? Because I told the other nurse I took it last night. She says, you sure? She says, yeah. This is great. Strange answer. So she leaves the cubicle and you're sitting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And if you're in Montreal, you're waiting. And the next person into the cubicle is the medical resident. And the medical resident has been up all night, hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, smells bad, is unshaven, could be male or female. And says, Tylenol overdose, what time did you take it? I said twice already last night. He says, no, what time did you take it? What time? I said, well, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 12 last night. And the resident says, great. At this point in time, you want to put your clothes on and leave this crazy hospital. The reason why these health professionals are happy that you took it last night, you see, remember I told you it takes between 2 and 5 days to kill you? If I can get my hands on you in the first 24 or 48 hours, I can save your life. And the way I save your life is I give you a drug that raises your body's glutathione level. I'm not giving you glutathione, I'm giving you a drug that makes your body raise its glutathione levels, and it's actually your body that's detoxifying the toxic breakdowns of the overdose. So that's how I knew about glutathione. But what I didn't know, like most doctors don't know, and most of the general public doesn't know, is that glutathione isn't only responsible in your body for getting rid of acetaminophen. It's responsible for getting rid of things that you're exposed to every minute of every day. break down products of cigarette smoke, automobile exhaust, heavy metals like lead and mercury, pesticides and herbicides, and a long list of carcinogens, carcinogens, a cancer-causing agent, things that show up in the water that you drink, the air that you breathe, and the food that you eat every day. And by no accident, the highest levels of glutathione that you have in your body is in your liver, which after all is your major organ of detoxification. And I tell people that next to water, there's no more important detoxification substance in your body. So that's A, glutathione, the master antioxidant, I, glutathione, fuel for the immune system, and D, glutathione, the most important detoxification enzyme we have. I'm just going to close off my talk with a little anecdote. Back when I was teaching emergency medicine and trying to get the other doctors to teach emergency medicine, we had a very interesting way of doing it. The medical students and the interns and residents would show up every morning in the ER, and we would spend an hour giving them a lecture. Most people were too tired or too stressed or too lazy to prepare a lecture. So what generally happened was the person who was on call the night before would hang around for an hour and talk about the patients that they saw. And in a busy urban emergency department, there's always more material to entertain people than you can handle. Happened to be my turn. And it was a lovely night in Montreal in February. And we had one of our famous ice storms. You're all familiar with these ice storms, where the streets are like sheets of glass. And this one car had slid off the icy road, and the ambulance drivers brought all the contents of the car to my emergency department. So I'm taking care of a cervical spine injury and a myocardial contusion. So I'm explaining to the students that morning how I'm keeping these people alive. In the back of the room, there's this one little medical student. This kid didn't even shave yet. Raises up his hand and says, "Dr. Gutman, this car that slid off the icy road, I could have saved all their lives too." So, "Oh, really?" And everybody in the room is just waiting to hear what he has to say. So I asked him, "The car that slid off this icy road, how would you have saved all these people?" And he said to me, "I would have salted the roads." Now, I always get a little laugh from that, but when you think about it, there's a profound wisdom back there. If you can get to the root of the problem before it happens, you can end up taking care of an endless list of pathology. When you understand the importance of glutathione in each and every single cell of your body, you'll understand why this is so critical to maintaining your health. Thank you very much for your attention.